Hi guys. It's been a long time. All right. So, for any of you that do know me or have known me in the past, it has been a long time. I haven't been online for, I don't know, maybe like 3 years in terms of regular social media use. And the reason I got offline was because of just all the fighting, I guess, the infighting. Um, Even people that I would normally ideologically agree with on most things. Cat. Um, yeah, there are many kitties here. Yeah, even people that I was agreeing with on most things just seemed very inflamed on the internet, and it was giving me a lot of anxiety, and I was feeling protective of some friends that were getting trolls on their posts and yada yada. We know the story. So anyhow, it's 2020 and we're, in the middle of a pandemic. Um, Hedge trimmer. Anyhow, we're in the middle of a pandemic and we're in the middle of a lot of things actually, and this is important stuff. It's difficult times. And so for me, it was time to get back on the internet and do something that I don't usually do, which is like get on a video and speak to anyone that might be watching. Normally, if I'm on a video, in the past, I was playing guitar in bands, and I wasn't even the singer, so I really didn't have to do that much talking or speaking or singing if I didn't want to. So anyhow, there are quite a few of us, and it's probably not a lot in the grand scheme of things, but it's more than it used to be, who, from the time that we were a lot younger, maybe 20, 30 years ago, for some of us, depending on how old we are, were aware that a change or a shift was going to happen on planet Earth, and that we were somehow born for this time, and it was confusing, and those of us who were just kind of hit with this or inspired in some way, and a lot of times that happens through tragedy, like if somebody close to you dies. For me, it was my brother. I was 20, he was 23. He got in an accident, and he was this wise old soul, and he did pass, and in that, I found my soul. I learned about what kind of person he was and how many people he had helped and things about him that I never knew. And it set me off on this spiritual path. And I was in Ohio at the time, and where I'm from. And I was just being led to all these people that were kind of like these spiritual mentors. And, in my early 20s, just hearing about this change and this shift, and this is why you're feeling weird. And so I wrote about that in a journal for at least 10 years straight. I'm sure even some of the journals, I'm 45 now, so this has been like, I don't know, maybe like 20 years in the making. Even some of the journals that I have written in the past 5 to 10 years will go back, and they're like similarly themed, but it was just all about this change that was happening and analyzing human behavior. So eventually, like, I got older, and I just thought no one's ever going to change. The world is not going to wake up. It's just like they said, it's pipe dreams. Everybody thinks that when they're young, and then, you wake up when you're older and just realize, like, you're cynical because you're like crotchety because nothing is changing and life is mundane, right? So that's not really what's happening now. All of a sudden, we're in the shift, we're in the change. And what's great for someone like me is that there are a lot of people talking about it. And even I'm back in Ohio now. Actually, I'm in a cabin on a lake where I basically spent summers and grew up here, with my mom, and it's great. But Ohio is it's not the most progressive place, and even people here are talking about energy and chakras and So things that in the past were just not even known, not talked about, especially in places like Ohio. From the Rust Belt, right now I'm like in rural Ohio. And yeah, I mean, people are, they have opened up, and they have been in tune with things that they were not in tune with in the past. And it's becoming more regular. And then there are a lot of people like myself that are feeling like, oh gosh, I don't want to like go on video and do social media and be a narcissist and try to teach people because I'm, through my teachings and being a student, you just learn humility, and you don't want to do that because we're not like completely 100% sure of ourselves because we're still human. But the truth of the matter is we are in a shift, and there is no denying it. And it's not just the virus, it's the weather, it's the storms, it's the fires, it is the pandemic. It's the social discord. It is the racial injustice and light being shined on that. It's reckoning. There's economic strife. I mean, you name it, it's going on right now, and you can really see how, like, okay, so maybe this is like the end of the world or Armageddon. People were, of course, when the pandemic hit, saying that, and people have been saying that for forever, almost like some people look forward to that day. And I can kind of see why, in a sense, because we just want to escape. We want to escape like the system that we're trapped in, where we are working like little worker bees, and just trying to sort of like make a living and getting by, and everything is sort of run by somebody else. It's somebody else's economy in a sense, because the people that are like hugely benefiting off of it, of course, are not the majority, and not really the middle class that is actually running all of the hospitals and factories and you name it. We all have to work together to make the community go. But it's a strange structure the way that we have set it up, and it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And there are people in this world that are accustomed to having power, and they've held power and kept power. And I think at this point, because everything seems to be getting chaotic and out of control, it doesn't seem like we can control climate change. It doesn't seem like we can control the storms, because we weren't trying to do anything to prevent climate change from happening. We were talking about it, but we didn't really like go full force on that. So now we're in, an era of superstorms and crazy fires, and then on top of that you have the pandemic. And so there are just so many things happening, and we're being forced to look at ourselves, and we're being forced to in a sense evolve on a different level. And it's very much an energetic and a spiritual level. And because people are more in the know now about things like chakras and energy and meditation and yoga and body work, all kinds of things, alternative medicine, homeopathy, I mean, all kinds of things that are sort of in the realm of not just your basic box, that traditional box that you go back to maybe when like my grandparents were kids. There wasn't much. I mean, there was like not even really TV for them, until later on. And then they got TV, and it was like a channel, black and white, a couple channels, and then it was 3 channels, and then there was color, and then there was 4 channels, and then there was, eventually, like in the 80s, we really started to woo. We didn't even have like really use the internet then, or have smartphones or anything, but we had cable like came out, and we're like, okay, with like 13 channels, this is so exciting. And that was like in the 80s. That was when like I was a teenager. So now we're all the way up to like I can communicate with somebody on the other side of the world in an instant. Everybody can see everybody else, and it has really opened up a whole new thing. So then alongside of that, we're thrust into chaos because of some circumstances that we could have controlled that we now can't, some circumstances that are out of our control, and some circumstances that are, I'll just say evil for the sake of just trying to keep it basic, evil or dark forces, shadow forces that are trying to stir up the chaos and the discord and the fear. And that's one of the main things right now, just to begin with for me, is that we cannot get caught up in the fear. People are really giving into that, and the arguing over sides, and the sort of vision in our country that we need to have two political parties for our democracy to work. And that's bullshit. All we need to have is votes. We need to just vote for people and vote for propositions and not tag people as one or the other side, because I have people on both sides of the aisle that I know and are friends with, and they are so similar. And we pretty much all have the same basic wants and needs. What I find is that people, it's just, whatever they settled on, or whatever they were born into, or whatever they got this piece of passion that's like, I'm a liberal or I'm a conservative because of like A and B, but there's like a gazillion different things that make up you as an individual that is unique. And at the core, we all want to be cared for. We all want food and shelter, in a society that works, in an economy that works, and it just happiness and freedom. I mean, we do all want the same things, right? We want to know that if we get ill, we can have somebody take care of us and it's not going to bankrupt us. We probably, most of us really do want honest, patriotic business. In our country here in the United States, and in the modern world, we want people to be able to succeed, but that means everybody. That means the small guy and the guy in the middle and the guy at the top, and we should be succeeding the same and have the same opportunities, but it's just hasn't been like that. And so we are now reaping what we sowed, and we have made some bad decisions as human beings. And, unfortunately, there are some shadow forces at work. And, there's things that they call conspiracy theories that are probably likely the truth. And it doesn't really matter, because it does not change the position that we're in on planet Earth. And let me say that again. The conspiracy theories do not matter. It doesn't matter at this point if the virus is a complete hoax and it's not even real. We know it's real because we've seen people with the symptoms, but that the virus, is political. Maybe it's man-made. Maybe it is man-made. Let's just go with that one. It's man-made, and the vaccines are all going to be infused with chemicals and artificial intelligence, so that we will be under control, and we won't ever have our liberties, freedoms, or the capacity to evolve and take our power back. So we could say that that's a conspiracy theory, and that could absolutely be the intention and the truth of some really dark, evil people. It doesn't change anything, though. That's the point, is that on the bigger level, on the bigger picture, and on a spiritual level, what this is really about is not so much the particulars or the semantics, or, if I wear a mask, that means I'm giving up my rights. Those are the small focus, but the bigger focus is that collectively we are co-creating our reality. And the human race has a history of making really bad decisions and not being able to sort of get in with the common sense of like, just don't kill each other. I mean, we can't even get that one. And that just seems like a basic, like, moral, yeah, like, don't kill each other, okay. But then we just justify it, like, all the way back to the beginning of time, tribalism, being territorial, killing our fellow man. Just, it is in us. And because of a lot of that, those negative traits and those low level thinking, that low level thinking, and just the basic, like, primal instincts for survival and reproduction, we have made bad decisions that are now having bad consequences. And so it's actually a good thing. It seems terrible and it's going to be hard, it's going to get harder. But the point of it all is it is going to erupt into chaos. It already has. And the point is to change. The point is to use that disruption of what is normal and so dysfunctional and so wrong. There's so many things that are so wrong in our society. So the point of the chaos, it's a spiritual thing. It comes in and it rattles and shakes up everything. Just like happened to me when my brother died. That's what set me off on the spiritual path. I was a total bitch before that. So after that happened, that pain, and there was a lot of chaos that I let into my life because I was grieving and I couldn't control things and I wasn't paying attention and I made bad decisions, and all of that completely helped me transform and get on my spiritual path. And in the larger sense, I mean, that has happened for so many people. And if you're resonating with any of this, if you've heard the term light worker and you know that you're one, you've probably had some amount of pain and tragedy in your own life. That has sort of changed the way that you view life. At that moment, all the little things go away and you just kind of come home to yourself and you're just there with yourself and you have to deal with it. And so that's where we're at collectively right now. We're just having this big, boom, lightning bolt lesson of, yeah, human beings, it's been a long run of wars and sabotaging each other and ourselves and low level thinking and being obsessed with wealth and power and what we look like, image, all of that. We've just been so obsessed with it, even though our natural instinct should kind of just be like running around in loincloths, right? And growing our own food or whatever. We've just morphed into something that is not natural and doesn't work in the natural world. And so the natural world, the energetic world, the spiritual world, everything's churning at a very fast pace, and it's turning into like a hurricane on top of a tornado, on top of a fire, and literally, all of these things, we're seeing it because we have to see it in a material, real, concrete way to be able to get it in the symbolic way. That's just how human beings work with our levels and our minds and, all of that. We have all these filters and, we're so ignorant and blinded by just our human state. And that's okay, because that's what makes waking up fun. But during this time, we really need all the people that we can get to find love in their heart, empathy, compassion, and as cheesy as that's going to sound to some people, that is really all that's going to save us. We really have to project love out and understand that we are all coming from the same energy source. We are all filled with a life source, and we're all connected by that. We're all made up of atoms, and all made up of the same stuff and the same energy, and we all have the same spectrum of emotions and possibilities of things that we can do or not. And so we're not that different, and we will have to wake up to the collective reality that we are co-creating our environment, our future, our planet, our story. We are co-creating it, so we have to accept that responsibility and get back to getting out of the fear-based thinking, getting out of, because if you give into the fear, the shadow forces, those dark forces, then they do win and they take over, and we all get sucked down, and it's just, we're not gonna come out of this okay. And it's go time. That's why I'm getting back online. It's go time now. And we have got to stay still within ourselves and not go out into the world swinging. We don't need to be angry with each other. It is okay if we disagree. That is not what is making this the end of the world. We can disagree. We can be separate people in terms of, my opinion is I like this flavor ice cream and you don't. My opinion is, okay, masks are like seat belts. It doesn't hurt me to go out and wear one. Yes, I mean, it it may be that they don't do much, but I mean, when you think about it, I guess if we've always been told to cover our mouth when we cough or sneeze into a tissue, surgeons wear masks in surgery. So if we do believe that there's an airborne virus circulating, it kind of does make sense. It may not be the solution, but it doesn't really harm me to contribute if it is helpful. So it's, and then somebody else is going to say like, well, they can't make us, they're taking away our rights, which in a lot of ways, like on some of the light workers and the spiritual people that I agree with do see it that way, and that is fine. And I'm happy that there are different perspectives even within the people that are all seeing that we are evolving and this change is happening, and that part of it is really great, that we can agree or not on the small stuff. You know, we don't have to. It doesn't mean anything. It doesn't really matter. What matters is that we are open, loving to each other, empathetic to each other. We are compassionate to one another. We are not trying to justify hatred toward this person, but love toward that person. What you do to one, you do to all. And so we really have to get into that space. That's the point of it. That's the way that we're going to survive, and that's the way that we can like overcome the dark forces. So those people who want to make their country into a police state where nobody has any freedom and there's dictators and authoritarians, and we see that in some countries around the world, they can be overcome just by our collective co-creation of intending love and intending a society that just, we're not going to do that. We're not. We're going to actually, we're not even going to talk about what our rights are, because that's like a man-made agreement. Like, we're all God's children. If you don't believe in God, it's fine. If you believe in a higher power or something, it's a lot better. And will probably get you a lot farther, but it doesn't mean that you have to believe in God to be a good person, or to project love and empathy and compassion out to the world, and or even to believe in the shift. But we do have a personal responsibility, and I think, you know, each person, no matter what their beliefs internally, can feel what is morally right and morally wrong. And I think what we're having is a moral crisis, and you know, we just need to forget about the small stuff, and not, you know, forget about the political parties, and forget about the petty arguments and the need to be right about just the very basic things that really just don't even affect us in day-to-day life. I mean, we'll get so wrapped up on something like, okay, so like the Second Amendment, that's always like a kind of a hot topic. We'll get so wrapped up in like, I think everybody should be allowed to carry guns, and, you know, and the person next to you is like, well, we have that right, but we need some restrictions. And then, you know, the person who thinks we should all be able to carry guns isn't hearing even the thing about the restrictions. They're just like, you just want, you know, us to give up our Second Amendment's right because you're on the Democratic side of this or whatever. And so it just is like we lose the capacity to even relate to any kind of meaningful conversation when we get into stuff like that. It's just so, I can't even talk about it. Like, you can see, like, it's not even coming out of me the right way, because it's just, I hate to even say dumb at this point, but really, like, we need to get beyond just focusing on these petty arguments. You know, the bigger issue on the Second Amendment at all is like, goes back to what I very first started talking about. Murder is wrong. Like, humanity needs to evolve. Like, we need to stop killing each other. I mean, that's it. It's so basic. It's almost like even more basic than just fixating on the Second Amendment. It's just so basic. We just need, human beings need to stop killing each other, period. I mean, we have to evolve beyond this. There is a way to have like a golden age or heaven on earth, and all it requires is just love and cooperation. I mean, we're still going to disagree. We can still have people who are dramatic. neurotic, narcissistic, you know, if that's what excites you. But we need to just find different things that are popular and excite us. And so violence and murder, yeah, we're pretty into that in the human race. And, you know, we need to evolve beyond that. And that's what all of this is about, even though it seems like it's about the virus and politics and racism and storms and, you know, all of those things combined is just the wake up call. Like, it's time. It's just, we're way past due. We have global communication now, and that is making people reach out, and it's making people curious, and it's making people like you and I be able to connect in this way. And so we have the tools necessary, but the one tool that is the most powerful is the power of our intention, our heart, our energy field, and projecting love and empathy and compassion. And, you know, when you want to be angry, there's a bit of a place for it, and you can see how it can help in certain situations, but once it has helped, it needs to go, and then back to love. Just back to love, back to love, back to love, and not trying to blame, because we're all responsible. We are all co-creating. We've all agreed to some of the craziest stuff that humanity has become, and now we're given this opportunity to just shatter all of what we know, let it go, let it be in the past, and be willing to just change like super quick. And we're pretty much doing it. I mean, we're in the shift, so, you know, we have the choice, each one of us as individuals, and then collectively, to stay in the light of love and not go into the darkness of fear. So that's all I have for right now. This is kind of just like an introductory video on my intention to pop in, and whoever wants to watch can watch. I think it might be valid to say that if I'm on social media and there is a lot of commenting and I am not participating in it, that may be the way it is for a while, because I do have to, unfortunately, protect myself against, you know, that the anxiety that fear-based comments or trolls tend to bring in. So you know, I may or may not engage with comments. So I would love to, and I don't know, I haven't been on Facebook in so long, or social media, but I would love to just every comment have an auto response. If I can do that, it's just going to be, I love you, I love you, I love you, to each person. I mean, they could be threatening my life, and I'm just going to tell them I love you, because it's really all that there is to say right now. So, okay, everybody have a good day or a good night whenever you're watching this, and I will see you soon. Okay, bye.